Thank you so much, Godfrey. The Ministry of Education is embracing change and innovation with a focus toward technology integration. Here to talk with us about this today, we're very happy to welcome Liesl Wright. She's an education officer with the writing unit at the Ministry of Education. She's joined, of course, by Charmaine Sinclair, who's the acting deputy director for planning, development, and innovation, that division. And of course, Samantha Wilson, who's an education officer with the Technology Integration Division. Ladies, good morning and welcome back to Bahamas and Sunrise to those who are coming back, and welcome for the first time to those who are here for the first time. So good to see you.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Yes, and I think so. We're excited today because we're back in studio today, and I know that that must be some excitement also for parents whose kids are back in the classroom. But I think for the technology division too, y'all are happy that they're back in the class, right?
Yes, quite happy.
Yes, of course. Well, let's learn some more about the work that you do. Obviously, we saw that come to a head in a big way in the pandemic when so many both teachers and students had to be migrated over using technology very quickly. But long before that, and of course now post that, we're going to be continuing that integration of technology. So, Ms. Sinclair, what are the three main roles the ministry is using technology for?
Right, so technology is being used as a tool, first of all, resource, as well as something that would allow us to better manage more efficiently the system, the integration of the technology as a tool for teaching and learning. Ms. Wilson can tell you more about that. When we look at what we're doing in terms of making decisions, that technology being integrated so that we're able to have many points of input, but also to pull out of the system using technology information that would allow us to create policy, to implement better, to be more efficient in the management of our system.
Excellent. So well said, right? Because everything takes strategy and planning. So one, it's a great tool for using, but it's also a great tool for learning yourself. How do we make this better?
Yes.
So well said. Ms. Wilson, what are the digital resources you are currently using now in our school systems?
Well, we have a number of platforms that we use in an integrated way, and we have labeled it the Bahamas Education and Learning Management System, which actually is a combination of our AMIS, which deals with the management part of it, the learning management system, which deals with the teaching and learning process, our Office 365 integration, and now too, our newly launched digital repository that Ms. Wright could tell you more about in terms of access to resources for teachers and students. So it's an integrated platform that we use that speak to each other.
All right. I won't come to you now, Ms. Wright, because that was a big smile when we talked about that. So what is this new sort of resource that's now available for both teachers and students with the digital repository?
Well, the digital repository was a long time coming, but it is here, and it is called Learning Well.
Okay.
At this moment, it's open to public teachers or those in the education system at present, but what it is it's a repository. As we know, repository is a storage area. So I like to tell people it's like a central library where we're keeping all of the resources that were created. We know during the pandemic, teachers had to resort to creating resources because when we think about things, Bahamian, there's not much out there.
Yeah.
So lots of resources were created, and then we go way back to resources that teachers were creating all along. Our teachers are a creative bunch, we know that. Educators are always doing something different. So what we've done with the help of Ms. Wilson and her team and with some interns is they've uploaded all of these resources to a repository that is now accessible. You can go on, take something down, whether it's a file, whether it's a video, an audio, a PowerPoint, adapt it, rework it, turn it into something that you want to use, and use that in your classroom. So just making life a whole lot easier for our teachers with their access to resources.
That is so exciting because that's best practice, right? And it means that you may not necessarily know a teacher in North Andros, but if she's already created something and it's there for you to find, now students in Acklands have access to that. So that's phenomenal. I love to hear it. You know, Sinclair, when you think about utilizing technology for more efficient decision making, are there specific areas that you want to focus on?
Right, so we actually had to, within this era, rethink education, rethink the way that we do things. Policies had to be considered. Why did we do them in the first place? What was the purpose behind it? But now that we are in this era where we need to be more flexible, where there is also more innovation, and we need to make decisions on the ground at central office, at the operational, as well as at the policy level, what do we do in terms of the integration of the technology, but also how is it going to make all of the key stakeholders a part of the process? So the input in terms of revisiting policy, the output in terms of the policies that will be more efficient in terms of the way that we govern education. All of this now is considered in how we think of education, how technology, how we utilize it, but how do we become more efficient in terms of servicing, giving support to, and then allowing the process to take place so that our learners benefit.
Yeah.
Equity, relevance, and the quality of it all.
Yeah, very well said, very well said. You know, and we've had such a transition. The pandemic reminded us that brick and mortar may not literally always stand, right? That you sometimes have to be willing to migrate systems. And so you, Ms. Wilson, you know, how is that movement from brick and mortar to opportunities from synchronous and asynchronous teaching and learning kind of worked for the ministry?
Well, I remember coming here in 2019 when we launched virtual school prior to the COVID, prior to Dorian. And it was that same idea. We actually say the statement, at virtual school, we escaped the traditional and embraced the virtual. And we saw that in a big way with COVID-19. Some of us were happy about having to embrace it, but we had to. Now that we've moved in face to face, it doesn't mean that our interaction with the technology, using it for the teaching and learning process will end. Because one of the benefits we see along with the creation of resources that we have access to, students also have access to these curated resources in multimedia. So helping students with multiple intelligences not only have to sit to a lecture with a teacher, they could watch a video, a song, play a game, and they can do that after school at 3 p.m. just on their device. And so it gives you access to 24-hour learning, and students can always go back and review. So wanting to ensure that the use of technology, now that we're out of the thick of it, does not fade away.
Yeah, that's important. All right, Ms. Wright, any final words you want to leave with us this morning, whether it's about the work that the unit is doing or just for teachers and students in general?
Well, what we'd like to say is the digital repository eventually will be open to the public.
Okay.
And what we're looking at, especially as you know, COVID brought to light that we're moving into all different forms of schooling. As you mentioned, not just brick and mortar. You have homeschool, you have all sorts of different things. So it gives persons now in the general public, once we launch with them, a way to come in and get Bahamian resources that they can use to enhance the delivery of education. So we're looking at great things happening in that area of resource production.
Well, I want to congratulate the unit. One, for getting us through the pandemic. I know it was a challenge, right? And I know the public can be very critical. So I just want to congratulate the unit on getting us through it, getting us back to this place, and even in the space of all of that, creating this repository and taking the unit to new heights. So thank you so much for joining us this morning on Bahamas at Sunrise and sharing with us all that's happening with technology and innovation in our public schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're watching Bahamas at Sunrise. We'll be right back.